Hello, good game. Welcome back, ghouls and goblins. I hope you're having a magical day. Thank you all so much for taking the time to support the channel. I have 20 new standard Innistrad decks for you guys. Holy Toledos. We've been busy, right? Theory crafting like no other. Just really addicted to it, if I'm being honest. Like, it's so much fun to craft with new cards. I absolutely cannot get enough, clearly. We're going to do this in a two-part series. This will be part 1, 10 decks here, and then we'll have another 10 decks in part 2. Of course, if you're looking, to upgrade your collection while you wait for the new set, check out my free-to-play playlists. I have one for my general budget and artisan decks, and I've also just finished upgrading every single one of the starter decks that you unlock for free through the color challenge, right? So we've got, all of your steps covered through your magic journey here, free-to-play decks, the slightly upgraded artisan decks, and then again, getting into the more competitive and jank builds as well. So buckle up, get ready, support the channel, right? Thumbs ups are easy and freezies. You can also subscribe to the channel if you want more quality content like this on your feed, and definitely join the community through the Discord and maybe even become a Patreon. So with that being said, let's check out our first 10 decks. All right, so here's all 20 of them. We'll go through the list. We may as well just jump right to the bottom. First up is Gruul Werewolves. I'm not going to go too in depth here, but we'll just talk about things, as a quick basis. So Gruul Werewolves, color combination of green and red, focused around Arlen, the Pack's Hope. Daybound, Nightbound, Planeswalker for 4 mana, +1. Until your next turn, you may cast creature spells as though they had flash, and each creature you control enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, right? This is really cool. So we're using the ability to cast our creatures with flash, and they'll enter the battlefield a little bit stronger, right? So, the pack leader finally gets some company, which is really cool. The Fearless Puppeteers are 1-drop. We were asked a lot about that. And then, we've got the Liberator for enchantments and artifacts removal, Snakeskin Veil for protection, Blizzard Ball for removal. We have the Moonrager Slash, which is pretty cool, potentially a Bolt. Rangers class, that just goes in the deck for general value. The Naturalist, which is pretty cool because we can ramp in, to some of our instant speed spells, whether it be the Snakeskin. We can use that mana later on as well, dumping it into the Rangers class if we want as well. And even, that instant speed boast is available to us as well. Tolvar is going to be absolutely amazing, helping you draw cards on the Daybound, and it's going to give you, if you have 3 or more werewolves, you transform it, and then you can buff it up and give it trample, which is pretty crazy as well, right? So a nice little draw engine there for us as well. So, between the mixture of removal and, smashing our opponent's face in with our big creatures, we shouldn't have a problem. And Unnatural Moonrise, I should mention this as well. +1, +0, trample, combat damage, draw a card. Very good. And that's going to make it become night to activate our Moonrage Slash. So, I think that's a cool combination that as well that we might focus more on. Just a best of 1 deck, nothing much here. We're using some snow mountains or some snowlands in general. And it's just our very first deck that we built, which is pretty cool. So let's jump back to our decks here. And what's after vampires? Well, what's after werewolves? Well, vampires. Go to visuals, and then this deck I feel like might be a little bit more competitive than the werewolves. However, werewolves are just great. Casting creatures with flash might actually outweigh it long term, but as far as cool new 1-drops and cool new 2-drops, I think vampires definitely got the better end of the stick there. The Pit Fighter, absolutely amazing. A 2/1 for 1. You can discard a card, sacrifice a vampire, draw 2 cards if an opponent lost life this turn, which is really good. And, the Dean is in here for a 1-drop. I'm sure you're aware of that. Play with Fire, new removal, 2 damage, killing stuff. Scrying if it's dealt damage to a player, which is pretty cool. So like a strictly better than Shock, which is nice. And we have the Specialist as well, a 3/3. Making that token for your opponent when it enters play. But then whenever something dies, it gets buffed, which is nice. The Bloodthirsty Adversary is cool. It's a 2/2 with haste, and then you can cast basically for free, instances and sorceries from your grave, in which, we showed you play with fire. We have the Neonate's Rush here as well, and the Infernal Grasp. Removal, direct damage to our opponent, a little bit of draw as well. The Vampire Socialite, just helping our vampires get stronger. And then the Scion, I believe, is actually a draw engine for us as well. Looking at X amount of cards, where X is the total amount of life your opponent lost this turn, and then exile one of those, and then we can play that later on, which is really, really cool. So, it's not just the Rush that allows us to draw. It's not just the Scion that allows us to draw. But we also, remember, have the Adversary that allows us to play the Rush from our graveyard again as well. And then the Ammerstorm Predator, just an amazing vampire here as well. So, I just think it's a really light aggro vampire deck that has a lot of potential just to kind of rush through whatever your opponent plays. And then, thinking about Westgate Regent in the deck as well. Moving on, right? We've got lots of decks to go through here. I don't want these videos to be too long because, of course, I'm going to be playing all of these decks once the set releases on Thursday, and you'll get a full run through of them. So this is Naya Landfall with Ren and 7 as our Planeswalker here. Basically just a landfall deck with the ability to play multiple lands into the battlefield right away, which is really, really cool. We have the Dryer Strain Rampage here, which is really cool. So sorcery speed, you can target your own things to pull 2 lands in play. You can, remove, artifacts, enchantments, or your opponent's creature lands as well. So it goes really well both ways. Removal here through the Fateful Absence, which is really cool. Felidar Retreat, giving us vigilance, creating creatures, Rite of Harmony, drawing, Waking the Trolls removal, Greenworn doubles things, Cobra for the mana ramp, Scoot Swarm to go wide to kind of try to get on Rite of Harmony for a really nice draw. Toski, because you're going wide, you're going to get a good draw there. And Yisharn, just because he's so cool, right? Pigs are pets too. So not a lot of new things within this deck, but Ren 7, I think, still does fit best in this older landfall deck, in my opinion. Moving on. That is our third deck, our fourth deck here, Celesnia Life Gain, a deck that many people will have access to because it's just a slight upgrade of the starter deck that people got, Lifelink, right? Or Lifeline, I think it was called. New cards here. You have the Lunarch Veteran. Absolutely amazing. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life as a 1-drop. So it's like turn 1 Lunarch, turn 2 Prosperous Innkeeper, turn 3 Righteous Valkyrie, and you just start laughing at that point, right? Book of Exalted Deeds is in here. Sigarda's Splendor. Whenever you cast a white spell, gain 1 life, and then you're drawing cards as long as your life totals more than your last noted, which is pretty cool. Protection through the shape, Cleric class, Rangers class. I love Rangers class with the Moon Dancer. The creature enter, creature play off the top, allow you to scry, get rid of land off top, play a new creature. I think that's really, really good. But again, this deck doesn't have too many new things here. You get the Splendor as a draw engine, which is cool. You get the Lunarch Veteran as the life gain engine, which is really cool as well. As our most noted additions here. And then the Sigardian Savior, which is decent. This is basically our more powerful card because it can bring things back. 2 creatures with mana value 2 or less from the graveyard back, which, we've got really cool things here, right? We've got our Dawnbringer to kill things, that Lunarch. We've got the Innkeeper, which is really cool, the Skyclave Cleric, and most importantly, the Moon Dancer, right? So, it's basically the deck you know and love that just gets an incredible free-to-play upgrade. Like, this goes in the budget version, it goes in the upgraded version, Lunarch Veteran. Wow. Incredible. So moving on from Celesnia Life Gain now to Mono Black Midrange Zombies, the Gizza, Glorious Resurrector. And we could probably zoom in for your viewing experience here a little bit as well. Just make it better for you guys. But, if a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, put all cards exiled with Gizza Glorious Resurrector into the battlefield under your control. They gain decay. Absolutely amazing. So we combo this with a bunch of removal. My favorite new removal is Infernal Grasp. You're going to lose life, which is cool. It triggers Book of the Darkness. Malakar's Rebirth to keep Gizza alive. Feed the Swarm will lose life as well with the book. Deadly Dispute for the draw. Crippling Fear, you know, everything that's not a zombie dies. Blood on the Snow, which is really cool to bring Gizza back. And that's actually the coolest combination here. Is because she comes back into play. So everything will die, get exiled. She comes back. And then, you know, on your next upkeep, everything will come back. And that's why we're protecting with Malakar Rebirth, right? So that's kind of the whole situation there. And then we just have like other zombies to fill it up. Champion of the Parish is really nice. It's going to get bigger. The Dracolich has nice replayability. The Ghast is somehow a zombie. And the Adversary is really cool to make twice 3 mana value zombies. So, you know, if you're paying 5, you get a 2/3 and 2/2 zombies, which is really cool. You know, 8, you're getting 4 zombies and the Adversary, which is pretty deadly. So, you know, there's a lot of value there late game. And again, you know, just protecting yourself with Crippling Fear basically within this deck. So really nice zombie deck here. Again, not getting too tied up. We want to be in and out in a relatively nice time. The Is It One Turn Kill Smoldering Egg. You know, this is the Zorn, Birgi, Goldspan, you know, Unexpected Windfall combo. But now you get Smoldering Egg. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, put counters on it equal to the mana value, 7 or more mana value on it. You transform it into the Invisible Dragon. Here it is. The Ash Mouth Dragon. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, deal 2 damage to any target, right? So that's going to just knock your opponent down really, really quickly, which is a lot of fun. New cards in here. Cathartic Pyre, 3 damage, creature, planeswalker. Discard 2, draw 2. You know, that's very, very good. And yeah, nothing too exciting here other than the Smoldering Egg into one of our older decks. Moving on to, I believe, Bant Control Teferi. Now this one, you know, be patient with me. This is a work of love. Teferi, Who Slows the Sunset. You know, this is what we're building around. 4 loyalty, +1. Choose an artifact, a land, and a creature to untap or tap, which is nice. You tap the permanents you don't control, you untap the ones you do control, and then gain 2 life, which is nice. -2, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And then -7, you get an emblem with untap all permanents you control during each opponent's untap step. You draw a card during each opponent's draw step as well, which is like so friggin' good, Randy, right? So the deck has a creature for mana, right? The Root Coil Creeper, 2/2 for 2. It can tap for 1 mana of any color. It can tap to add 2 mana of any one color to cast things from our graveyard, which is a lot of fun, right? And then we have our Lyre, which allows us to have instances and sorceries in our graveyard be castable with flashback, which is really, really, really cool. And then spells can't be countered as well. So that's amazing there. And then, of course, you know, we have the Skyclave Relic and the Solitus. And this will make it so we have lands, we have, you know, a creature, and we have an artifact to untap. So Teferi is coming out on turn 4. And also, because you have those 2 things, so you have 6 mana on turn 4. Teferi comes out, you have 2 left over, and then Teferi untaps 3. That brings you to 5. And then, you know, if you had Imrith in hand, you know, that's absolutely amazing. But what's really cool is you just hold up Saw It Coming for 3. You know, maybe you have Faithful Mending to cast or Fateful Absence. Both, I think, are really, really good. Faithful and Fateful. That's a slip of the tongue there, but the ability to now hold up counter magic once you've already just played your Planeswalker is absolutely amazing for me personally. So I really like this deck. And then again, you know, you're casting all of these instances and sorceries from your graveyard through the Lyre, which is really cool. And hopefully you can just maintain some control, right? Saw It Coming, negate, all in here for our pleasure, which is a lot of fun. Moving on. We must be getting close. How many decks is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is our 8th deck. And we are looking at Celesnia Humans, Cadilda. And this is a really interesting deck. We've got a lot of new cards in here. Adeline, its power is equal to the number of creatures we control, and it has vigilance. Whenever it attacks, you create a 1/1 human token, which is really cool. The Augur, playing lands from the top of our library. If we have Coven, we can play creatures off the top as well, which is insane. The tracker has vigilance, and vigilance is really what we were kind of going for in this deck, which is nice, right? So Adeline has vigilance, the tracker has vigilance. When it enters investigate with an artifact in play, it's going to get buffed up, right? It's going to be that 4/3, which is really nice. Then we have the Code Spell Cleric, vigilance, this. The adversary, this is here for lifelink, but we can also put those tokens on things, which is really nice if we're paying that extra 2 mana, 4 mana, everything gets it gets the +1/+1 counter on it, and then everything gets +1/+1 because of that counter, which is really nice. You could dump into 6 as well, potentially later, and that mana shouldn't be a problem because of the Dawnheart Prime, and this is what it's all about. Protection from werewolves. Humans you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color, and then we can pay 6, tap to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control, which is a lot of fun, right? So we'll have lots of mana, and we'll always be able to use it in different ways, which is nice. We have hexproof through all of our untapped creatures, death touch on our tapped creatures. We use vigilance so none of our creatures will ever tap. Beautiful. The Sungold Sentinel, just to keep control of the graveyard here, right? When it enters or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard, and then Coven to give it hexproof if we want. Miria's Call for late game. Join the dance, for those tokens, which is really nice, that generate mana. Maul of the Skyclaves, because we have vigilance, why not? Rangers class, this is going to be really good. Lands off the top, creatures off the top, why wouldn't you? So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. A really fun deck. That was number 8. Let's check out number 9, Boros Humans. And this is a pretty aggressive deck. So this is an aggro build. Brutal Cathar is what we focused around. A 2/2 enters the battlefield or transforms, exile target creature and opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. Oh my gosh, right? So that's really, really good. I absolutely love it in an aggro deck because you only care about creatures that are blocking you, basically. And then on the opposing side, 3/3 first strike, ward for 3 life that they have to pay, which is great if you're an aggro deck, if they're paying 3 life, right? We have the Cleric for vigilance here, which is really nice. The Elite Spellbinder in the air as a human, which is really good, interrupting your opponent. You know about this. The Adversary, putting the counters on itself, and then everything else gets them. The Intimidator has Trample, which is nice. The Aspirant buffs all your creatures up, which is really cool. The Stewart Slayer, this is a lot of fun. I think this is the one that's reducing or nullifying the non-combat damage that's dealt to you, so like the spell damage. You're preventing that, which is amazing. And then if you would deal damage to an opponent or player, deal that much +1, which is cool. The Cavalier, Trample Haste, 3/3. It's going to become day, and whenever it switches, it gets a +1, right? So it's going to be a 4/4 with Trample and Haste for 3. Great value. The Pyre, we talked about this. 3 damage, creature, planeswalker, draw 2, discard 2. The Maul, because it's great. Rally of the Ranks, because humans, and Showdown of the Skulls for those +1/+1 counters in the draw. I know I said I wouldn't run through these decks in depth, but you're getting more than I was going to. But this is the last deck. Trying to keep it under 25 minutes here. Brixis, Reanimator, the Liar Lord Flashback. We talked about the Liar. Spells can't be countered. Instances and sorcery cards in your graveyard have flashback. The flashback cost is equal to that card's mana cost, right? Comboing this with Lord of the Forsaken for 6, a 6/6 with flying and trample. Pay 1, sacrifice another creature, target player mills 3 cards. Pay 1 life, add a colorless mana to spend only on spells that we cast from our graveyard. So we can cast instances and sorceries from our graveyard through flashback with Liar. And then the Lord allows us to pay life to cast the majority of the mana through those spells, which is really, really cool, right? We have the Mask here to regain that life that we're going to pay. Equipped creature has flying and lifelink. We can, when it dies, pay X life, where X is its power. If we do draw X cards, which is, it's just general value. It's there for a little extra, right? And then the recursion, right? Wake to Slaughter is in play. We also have Carter's Vicious Return to bring the Lord and the Liar back into play from our graveyard. The Opus will ramp us early on with the treasures, and then we're casting it from our graveyard through the Lyre via the flashback, which is really, really cool. The Otherworldly Gaze, you know, drawing and milling, or just basically milling through our deck, finding the right cards to play for our next turn is great. We have removal, and then playing our opponent's deck with Siphon Insight as well. So, you know, a fairly basic deck, but the fact that we can, you know, just be casting a lot of instances and sorceries that are control and value based from our graveyard, I really do like that, and I think it's going to help us win a lot of games, and we're just having fun with it, right? So, you know, the gallery is probably where we could look at this better to give you guys one more general overview. It's nice to zoom in on each individual card. But this is what we've got going on. You know, the Magecraft is going to keep us alive, which is really cool as well. Yeah, so that's all of the decks. Those are the decks. You know, not a very serious video. I just want to give you guys a general overview of what we're working with. So definitely let me know in the comments which one you're most excited to see, because, you know, with 20 lists made already and still a few more days to go, you know, who knows which videos we'll see in order on the channel, as we only do 2 a day. So in our next video, we have Esper Control with Rite of Oblivion, Boros Burn with Thermo Alchemist, Dimir Control, Bloodline Culling, which is a lot of fun, Mono Green Stompy, Augur of Autumn, Golgari Poison with Sarith, your 420 Curse. Now, I put a lot of time into this deck. You're going to really like this one with Moonveil Regent, Mono White Aggro, Intrepid Adversary, the Izzet Spells with Vadrik, Mono Black Aristocrats with Jaren, and Azorius Control with Teferi again one more time. So that's what you have to look for within the next video. And then again, you know, today's decks are really cool. Right now, they're all private, but I will make them public for everyone so they can check them out as well. Thank you for watching. Really do appreciate all the support on the channel. Super excited for this new set. If there's any decks that you didn't see here that you think I should build, let me know in the comments below as well, and then we'll get right to it. We live to serve. Have a magical day. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon in the next.